Alright, so welcome to the Big Rocket Day workshop training video. So as any regular math science workshop, you always have to start with the three math science rules. Most of it will be done outside. Okay, so you need to advise the school in advance so the kids can come to your workshop already with their winter coats already set up and ready to go outside. Now, also, if the kids already did the how high workshop, ask them to bring their altitude calculator and altitude tracker. Okay, that way they'll be able to use it through the session, through the multiple workshops. Once they build it, they will be able to use it and apply the concept to measure the altitude of the rockets. Okay? Now, it's important to ask them to the week before and also before going outside, before coming to class. It's important that the kids have their altitude tracker and calculator with them if they already did the how high workshop prior to that. Basically today with this workshop you will launch multiple rockets outside. They are in different shapes and sizes. Well, they'll have the same shape, but they are at different sizes. You can see that the orange and the yellow one are different. Also the green one is different, and the one that we use mostly in math science through the rocket system and through other systems also is this one here. Now, you can play a game with the kids in the beginning of class so they can figure out if which rocket will go the highest, will have the highest point, altitude point. Okay, basically, there will not be a lot of difference, because what's important is not the size of the rocket, it's the motor. Okay, the motor is really the reason, is the only thing basically that will play into how high the rocket will reach. So no matter the size of the rocket, they will reach around the same height. Okay. For our rockets that we will launch through the system, and most of our rocket that we will launch at Math Science, we use a specific motor that I'm going to talk about a little bit later into the training video. So the first thing is that to establish the fact that no matter how big the rocket is, it's the motor that's key into how high the rocket will reach. Now that this is taken care of, once you will go outside, you will need to build the rocket platform. Okay, you have 3 pieces already into your kit. You have 3 feet for the platform. You have the base. You have a cap. You have a rod, and you have a metal platform. Basically, first of all, what you need to do is to set up the base with the feet. So the feet, there are parts that are coming out of the feet, and it is a specific shape that it's the shape of the hole that you have on the base. You have 3 holes into the base, so you put the feet in it and you twist it. Okay, you can see that there is a little hole here. Okay, the head of the feet will finish when you will twist it into this hole. So if I put the second feet into the hole there and I twist it, you can see that it fits into the first feet hole. Okay, now the third one will do the same with the second feet. You twist it, and now you have your base ready, the feet. You take the cap and you put it in the hole that you have in the middle of the base. So you put it there. Okay, now the cap has a specific shape. A shape like this. Okay, when you look in the middle, you have the same shape that you have into the cap. So you put your metal platform into the shape, and you turn it. That way the platform stays stable into the cap. And the last step to set up the platform is to take the rod and to put it into the little hole you have into the cap in the middle. Okay? So you put your rod there and your rocket platform is ready. Now this rod there is crucial to keep the rocket stable, and that way the rocket will go way up. Okay? Now depending of the type of rocket that you have specific places in the rocket where you insert this rod into. For this one, you have two columns there glued into the part in the middle. There's a big one and there's a small one. Use the one that's small. That way the rocket will stay stable. So you put the rod into the small cylinder you have there. That way the rocket stays up. Okay. Now that's for this rocket. Some rockets, it's on the side. Okay. And some rockets, they have two holes like this. For the big one, it's different. You have a hole at the bottom there and a hole in the middle. Okay, so you put the rod in the one in the bottom and you push it until it gets to the second one. That way your rocket stays straight up. Okay, that's for the platform. Now, with the different rockets that we have, like I said, we are using motors, okay? And we have two different kind of chamber for the motor, okay? Either we have a chamber that has a cap that we have to put in and twist to lock the motor in, okay? Or there's a hook, like this one, the rocket that we use, there's a white hook in the bottom, okay? And that's this hook, when we push the motor in, that keeps the motor inside. Okay. Now, before I show you how to assemble the motor into the rocket, we have to get the motor ready. Okay. Now, the motor is a cylinder like this. Okay. Now, the motor that we use at Math Science is the category B. Okay. We have A, B, and C for the motors for the rockets. So A has a small amount of chemicals in it, okay? And if I use this finger, the cylinder, there's a part that when you can look into the cylinder and you see inside the cylinder, that's the part that goes first into the rocket. And when you turn it around, you see that the one at the bottom, it's filled with a gray chemical that has a small hole in the middle, okay? Now, the chemicals that you can see goes at the bottom when you push it into the rocket. So let's start let's say that you will do a rocket launch with a typical Math Science rocket. What you do is that you need the motor, you need a igniter. Igniter basically are two metal strings that it looks like a Y. We have two strings, one on my left and one on my right, and it finished like a Y. Those two strings are attached together at the bottom. Okay, the part that's in the bottom, that's the part that you fit first into the small hole that you have into the motor, where you can see on the side that you can see the chemicals. Okay, so you take the part where the two strings are attached together and you put it in the hole, the small hole. Okay, so it stays like this. Now, once you have put your igniter into the small hole, you need to use a cap. That one is pink, to keep the igniter stable into the motor. So you push it in. Okay. So once you do that, the igniter is stabilized into the motor. Okay. Looks like this. Now there are two papers glued one into the other to keep those two strings together. What you have to do, you have to remove this paper because you have to separate those two strings, because that way those two strings don't touch each other. That way it will not affect the rocket launch. So you remove those two papers from each other to free the two strings. Okay. so I have my 2 strings available. Okay. Now, once you did that, you can put the motor into the rocket. Okay. Remember, the part where you put the igniter goes in the bottom, and the one that does not have the igniter, the side that does not have the igniters, goes into the rocket first. So I put it in like this, and I push it in like this. And the hook, as you can see, keeps the motor stable into my rocket. Now, when you do that, when you set up the motor, you have to make sure that those 2 strings of the igniters are not right over the cylinder where you will fit the rod, okay? Because it will be difficult to connect either the wires to the igniter, okay? So what you can do, you can turn the motor that way it's not in the same on the same side as the small cylinder that you use for the rod. So this is the cylinder I use for the rod. Fit the rod in, and my 2 strings are there. Okay, that way they're not on the same side, so it's not going to be difficult to connect the wires. For this, we have a controller. Okay, that's what we can use to do the rocket launch. As you can see, there's a case that has a battery inside. There's a big button in the middle. There's a light bulb that we can see. That's not on right now. We have a hole, okay, and we have a security key. So for this to work, what you have to do, you have to put the security into the hole, okay? And you have to push it in. Now, every time you push it, if the light doesn't turn on, it's because the signal that comes out of one of the wire of this case is not able to come back into it. Okay, so that's a signal. Okay, that shows you that either the 2 alligator heads are not touching each other, or if you already connected all this, you already set up the controller to the igniters of the motor, and you push it in, push the security key in, and it doesn't turn on. That means there's an issue into the connection, so the electricity is not able to leave through one wire, and it's not able to come back to the case to the second wire. Okay. Security key. Okay. Now, what you have to do is that if I turn the rocket, I have the side where the 2 igniters are. I take one of the alligator head, and I'm going to pinch one of the string of the igniter. Okay. Now, once I do that, I'm going to turn the alligator head, twist it like this, so the wire turns around the alligator head. Okay. That way, there's more contact between the string of the igniter and the alligator head, so the launch will be more effective. Okay. So I pinch one of the wires. Now I'm twisting the alligator head. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm right-handed. Okay, so that's one alligator head. I'm going to do the same with the second alligator head. I'm going to pinch the second string, the second alligator head, like this, and I'm going to turn it so. Okay, perfect. Once you've done that, okay, to make sure that the setup is good, you put the security in, you push it. Now, if the light turns on, that means that the signal that comes out of one of the wire is able to come back to the controller. I also told you that we have a second type of rocket where the chamber is locked with a cap. So in that case, what you have to do for the motor, you don't set up the igniters before putting it into the chamber. You have to put the motor first, lock the motor with the cap, then you put the igniter and the motor cap. Okay. So for that type of rocket, I'm taking a motor. Still the same thing. The side where I don't see the chemical right away into this hand is the side that goes into the rocket first, and the side that I do see the chemicals with the small hole for the igniters is the part that goes last into the rocket. So put it in like this, okay? So you see that the motor, part of the motor is taken out. So I'm taking the chamber cap and I am locking the motor into the chamber like this by screwing the cap, okay? So it stays there. Now once this is done, that's when I put the igniter and the motor cap. So igniter first, still the same thing. The part where the two strings are touching each other is the part that I put into a small hole. And I'm taking the motor cap and I'm going to push it in the hole to stabilize the igniter. Okay, so you still do the same thing. You remove the paper that way the two strings are separated. Okay, and the setup is the same as I did for the math science. So you take one alligator head, you pinch one of the string, you twist it so the string goes around the alligator head, and you take the second alligator head and you twist it. Okay, it's still the same. Now, in case that for whatever the reason the controller doesn't work, you don't have a rocket controller, you will use a 6-volt battery. Now, for this battery we have two outlets, one negative, one positive. Okay. Now for this one, the wire that you will use most of the time will have 4 alligator heads, so 2 alligator kind of wire. Okay, so those 2 of those alligator are already set up to imagine that those. If I would have that wire, 2 alligator are already connected to the igniters, and the other hand of that wire has 2 other alligator heads. Okay, so for a battery, you don't have to pinch both of the outlets. Okay, you pinch one of it into the battery. Okay, now the second alligator head, you don't have to pinch the other outlet, because once you remove the cap, all you have to do is to touch the second outlet. That's enough to for the electricity to go through the wire, and the reaction will happen quite quickly. If you're using a controller, you put the security key and you push it and you don't see the light. That means the signal is not able to come back. So you have to check if the alligator are properly set up. Make sure that if you turn those 2 alligator heads, that will avoid any connection issues. Okay, and if after you checked everything, you try again, whether with the controller or the battery, still nothing is happening, change the motor. Okay, and use a brand new motor, a brand new igniter, and a brand new motor cap. Okay, so if for some reason, one of the reasons that thing that could happen, if it's not the alligator heads, it could be also, you remember the igniters, it's like a wire. Those 2 strings are connected to each other. Okay, if for some reason those 2 strings are not connected anymore, the signal that comes from one of the string is not able to go to the second string. Okay, that could be the reason why. If the igniter is fine, the issue could be the motor as well. So that's why I'm telling you, if whether you use a battery or a controller, if you try once. So for the controller, light comes up. Now you have to push the big button, and when you use the controller, you have to push the security. Keep pushing the security key and push the big button. Okay. Now if the light turns on and nothing is happening, like I told you, it could be the motor, it could be the igniter, it could be the way that it is set up. Okay. It could be also the controller. It could be the battery inside the controller. So that could be all the issues that could happen. Okay, so if nothing is happening with the controller and or with the battery, take a brand new motor, take a brand new igniter, a brand new motor cap, and start over. That could happen. Now, whenever you have an issue, take a few seconds before coming close to the rocket, because the reaction could be, for whatever the reason, could be slow. So if you wait a few seconds, you're not touching the two outlets anymore. You remove the security key. You wait. I'll give you wait 10 seconds. If nothing is still happening, then move slowly close to the rocket. Remove one of the alligator head, and now check the setup or remove the motor. Let's talk about the 3 rocket launch stages. Basically, the first one is called propulsion. Basically, it's when a spark reaches inside the chemical inside the motor, and that begins the reaction. Okay. Now, the chemical inside the motor is separated in 2. Okay. The first part has most of the chemical. Okay. So once the spark reaches there, okay, the part in the bottom basically generates a gas that goes down. Okay. If the motor is like this, the chemical is on this side, a box comes right away here. So there's a gas that generates and goes at the bottom. So just like the Newton law, action-reaction. Action is that in this case would be that a gas is generated at the bottom. Now the reaction of that is that the object will move the opposite direction of where this gas is coming out. So since the gas is coming at the bottom, so the object will move up. Okay, action-reaction. Okay. Newton's law. So like I said, this is the propulsion stage. This is where the gas goes at the bottom, so the rocket moves up. Okay. Now once all of this first part of the chemical is there's no chemical anymore for this first part. Okay, there's a point where no gas will be generated at the bottom, but the rocket will still move up, but it will slow down. That's the point where you have to advise the kids that they really have to focus to follow the rocket, especially once it starts to slow going up. So that's when we reach the second stage, which is called delay. Okay, there's no gas that's coming out at the bottom of the motor, so the rocket starts to slows down, and at some point it will stop going up. Once it stops going up, this is the highest point where the rocket will reach. Okay. Now, that will happen for a few seconds. For a few seconds, nothing will happen from the motor. Okay. Now, once that happens, the rocket will start to come down. And the third stage, which is called ejection, okay, what happens is that the second part of the chemical that's on top of the first part basically will start to react, and a gas will basically come out of the motor, but instead of coming out at the bottom, it will come at the top of the cylinder. So if you imagine that the first part, propulsion, gas is coming out, so the rocket goes up. Action, reaction. Nothing. Now there's no more chemical that comes out of it. So now once we reach the delay, nothing is coming out of this side. Okay, so the rocket starts to slow down and now start going back down. Okay, now once it does that, gas is pushed at the top, so the cone will be pushed out. So will the parachute will be pushed out as well. Okay, so that's the stage called ejection. Now I just talked about the parachute. Okay, a way that you can set up the parachute is like this. So always make sure that the parachute is properly set up, because if it is too tight in the tube or the rocket's body, the ejection stage of the motor will push the gas, but if it is too tight, the parachute is not going to be able to move out. Okay, so will the cone. So a way to make sure that the parachute is properly set up is that when you take your parachute, okay, so parachute, open your parachute, so you fold it in half. Now make sure that the string that holds the parachute are at the bottom. Okay? So you fold it in half. Now you fold it again in half. Now you have a big triangle. Okay? If you hold it from the top, you have a big triangle. Now you can fold it again to have a smaller, thinner triangle. Okay? Now once you have this thinner triangle, you take the part here and you fold it like this. Okay? Now once you fold it like this, you have to roll those two sides of the parachute toward the middle. So this side you have to roll it like this, and this side you have to roll it like this. So I put it on the table. I'm rolling one side toward the middle. Okay, and I'm rolling the second side toward the middle as well. Okay, so now I have the parachute folded like this. Now, the string that holds the parachute, you will use it to roll it around the parachute. Now, if there's a elastic band that holds the parachute and or the cone, you have to put it first into the rocket's body. So a way that you can put it in is that you take your finger, you turn the elastic around your finger like this. Turn it, turn it, turn it. Okay, turn it. Okay. Once you turn all the elastic around it, you put your finger in the body and you use your second hand and you are letting your finger out and all the elastic band is inside the body. That's when you take your parachute to put it inside the body. Now when you do that, it's key to make sure that the parachute is not too tight into the body. Like I said, if it is too tight, the gas into the ejection stage will not be enough to push the parachute and the cone out. So that's why it has to be inserted, and you have to feel that the parachute is not tight into the rocket's body. And that's when you put whatever is left of the elastic band and string into it, and you push your cone in. Now, when you are outside, right before you do the rocket launch, when you have to take the nose cone and you have to get it out and put it just a little bit. Okay, you don't have to completely put the nose cone into the body, the rocket's body. That way, as soon as the ejection stage comes in, gas is pushed up, it will push the cone right out easily. Okay. So I always bring motors with you just in case something happens. The motor doesn't work. Always bring extras with you. Those extra motors that you have, okay, you keep it in a bag or in a container. You always, always, always have those motors with you. If you are wearing a Mad Science lab coat, if the weather outside allows you to wear the Mad Science lab coat, okay, you have the motors with you in one pocket. Okay. Now you also always have to wear your safety goggles. You will have a safety area where they will be. They will always have to stay there. Okay. Now you will choose one kid to pick up the rocket, one piece of the rocket of both pieces of the rocket. Why am I saying one or two pieces of the rocket? Is that those two rockets that you see there, okay, they have a parachute, but a parachute attaches only the body of the rocket and the fins at the bottom. Okay, the nose cone have propellers. Okay, so once the ejection stage comes in, the gas that goes up will push the parachute, but also the nose cone out. And the nose cone, since it doesn't have an elastic band that connects it to the rest of the rocket, will use the propellers to come slowly to the ground. And the parachute will take care of the rest of the rocket. Okay, so You have to use your judgment. Once you have to tell the kids that they will not run after the rocket, they have to stay in place. Okay, that way they don't. If they focus into the rocket that's into the air, they run, they could run into another kid, they could run into a wall, they could run into a tree, whatever the obstacle into there, which is their focus is into the rocket, they're not aware of what's happening around them. Okay, that's one of the reasons why you have to tell them that they have to stay in place. Also, they will have their altitude tracker and calculator, okay, in their hands. Okay. Now, one of the kid that you choose that will grab the rocket once it hits the ground, really when it hits the ground. Okay. And also, what I do is that I always say there's a key word that I have to say once the rocket hits the ground, and where the rocket or one piece or two pieces of the rockets are in an area where it is safe, and the way from where the kids are to reach the area, it is safe also for that kids to go to that area. Okay, then I say go. Okay, if it is cautions, and right before you go outside, you can do one quick experiment with the kids. Basically, it is a teabag rocket. So for this, you will need a teabag, 2 metal plates, a lighter, and scissors. Now, you're going to take 1 metal plate, you will take your teabag, you will hold it from the string, and you will cut the upper part of the tea bag. Okay, so okay, now the part that has the string, you put it in your middle plate. Now when you open your tea bag, you will see that you will have the tea spices into the bag. So all you have to do, you have to empty the tea bag into the plate where you have the tea string. Okay, all right. Now you can put this metal plate on the side, and you will use the second metal plate. The long tea bag that you have with you cut it in half. That way, that will give you a second tea bag to repeat the experiment, because the kids will ask you to do it again. Now, one of the half of the tea bag that you just cut it, you put your finger in to open the bag, and you put it up like this into your metal plate. You take your lighter and you will burn 2 parts of the top part of your tea bag, and it will act basically just like a hot air balloon. Hot air balloon basically is, imagine that my hands are the balloon of the hot air balloon, okay? And under the hot air balloon we have air, okay? And there's also a burner like this, okay? So once they turn the burner on, it will give energy to the air molecules. So once the air molecules will have enough energy, they will start heating more and more and more the balloon, okay? At some point it will have enough energy, so the hot air balloon will start to go up, okay? And once it's up, it's the wind that carries the hot air balloon, okay? Now, let's do this. I'm burning 2 parts of I'm burning the upper part of the tea bag. Now the tea bag is burning, and now you see the tea bag's going up. And I have my metal plates to grab the falling tea bag into my metal plate. So just like the hot air balloons, the flame gives energy to the air molecules that's under the tea bag. Okay. All right. So that's for the first part of video training. Now let's go outside to launch a rocket.
All right. So welcome to the second part of the Big Rocket Day workshop. So right now we're outside. So we're about to launch the rocket. Before you do that, you always make sure that all the safety precautions are taken care of, which is the kids has to be 15 feet away from the rocket launch uh, or 5 meters away. You can assign one kid to pick up the rocket once it touches the ground. Um, you can play a game with them that it has to touch the ground and you have to say the word go. So as soon as you say go, the kids that you chose to pick the rocket will be able to grab it. Now it will be your responsibility to make sure that where the rocket landed and the way that the kid will have to go through to pick up the rocket is safe enough. So you have to make it clear to that kid that if you do not say go, this kid still has to stay where he is with the other kids. Okay? Now, enough chit chat. For the rocket launch, since the controller that I have doesn't work, I'm going to use a battery this time. So, enough chit chat, Dr. Gravity. Now let's launch the rocket. So, as you can see, I'm going to launch one rocket, but in this workshop, you will have to launch a lot of rockets that have different sizes. As you can see, the green and the yellow rockets are different sizes. So I'm going to launch the yellow one as a demonstration. Basically, you will see what a rocket launch will look like. All right, so now let's launch that. Kids, you can do a countdown for the rocket launch. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.